So, hey guys, it's Bats here, and I am finally back with another story video. Now, I'm gonna be, continuing from where I left off last time, roughly. Around this time, I've kind of been on the street on my own, for a while, figuring out, how to, feed my addiction. And at that point, it was basically my full-time job, just fucking trying to get high, is all I did, the things that I would do to get high and to acquire said drugs, increasingly got more and more ridiculous, and, sometimes dangerous. It's a miracle that I still have not been arrested or gone to jail, which I am very thankful for. So, yeah, this video is kind of going to be me talking about, oh my god, jeez, that was loud. Anyways, that is going to be me talking about, at how, I started committing a lot of crimes to support my habit, and how I miraculously managed to avoid getting myself arrested and going to jail during all of said crimes. Before when I first got out on the street and whatnot, I really hadn't committed many actual crimes, other than doing drugs all the time and stealing some fucking Delsum and shit from grocery stores here and there beforehand. I had never really committed any major crimes before that. But as I got deeper into my addiction, the idea of committing crimes to, get drugs, became less and less absurd to me. So, before I get into that, though, as you know, we always, take a hit before I get into the meat and potatoes of a story. I'm working with a really janky lighter, so it might take a minute. It barely fucking works. At all. So, yeah. It's actually a miracle that I even managed to get a hit there. Go ahead and hit the vape too. But yeah, so anyway, I guess one of the first things regarding this topic to talk about is kind of out of order, because this actually, I met this dude and a lot of this stuff started happening kind of earlier in the timeline to where technically I left off last time. But basically, I met this dude named Anthony, right? A lot of people called him Ant, alright? And this guy was a absolute degenerate, total loser piece of shit, okay? There's no other words for it. There's no other way to describe this man. This guy was a total fucking just burnout. Alright, he's a middle-aged man, and he's been fucking, has a fucking whole, family and kids and shit that, he just doesn't give a fuck about. And, he's just fucking, will do absolutely anything, to get high, even more so than even me at my worst. This guy was committing multiple felonies daily. It was nothing. It was just his fucking daily routine. And the way I met this guy was when I first started, going to the street more and more to get my shit in my local area, right? You know, the people that you meet in, you know, the drug communities of the streets, they're not the best people all of the time, or most of the time, really. And, you know, a lot of them do some pretty fucked shit. And, you know, this guy, for whatever reason, you know, he said a couple of times that he saw me as, like, his little brother. He wanted to, like, he wanted to teach me the ropes, basically, you know, show me how things are done, right? So, if I remember correctly, like, one of the first times that I hung out with this dude, right, he was with this fucking Mexican dude, which I think I talked about on my other channel, like, once or something mentioned this. But basically, he was in this car with this fucking Hispanic dude, right, who barely spoke a lick of English, alright? He had a whole family, a house, a job, all this shit, right? And he made some sort of agreement with this Hispanic guy to basically have this guy drive him around in his car, so that he could, you know, commit his crimes. And one of these times, I was brought along for the ride to help out. He needed some extra hands for some activities. And basically, for the next, like, couple of days, I was in this car with these dudes, just going all around town committing all sorts of fucking crimes. Alright? I'm talking fucking robbing mailboxes, stealing, like, absurd amounts of shit from, you know, multiple grocery stores. I'm talking suitcases full of fucking shit. And, you know, like, just that type of shit. Like, stealing packages off of people's porches. It even, you know, started getting into the realms of, like, car prowling at some points. But I wasn't really comfortable enough to do that yet. But trust me, I got there. And yeah, it was just, like, I was scared out of my mind the entire time. This is my first time really committing real crimes. And, like, I didn't know how to do this shit. I was expecting the cops to fucking roll around the corner any second. And, you know, and he would always say, you know, if anything goes wrong, if, you know, by some chance you get arrested, I will bail you out. Bull fucking shit. No, he will not. Like, this dude tried to convince me that if anything happened, that he would have my back and, you know, I wouldn't even spend the night in jail. And I didn't believe him at all, but he really just, like, kept, like, saying it, because he could tell that I was anxious as fuck, and I don't handle anxiety very well. And, you know, this became a theme that ended up with me and this guy really not getting along very well, because he was always trying to get me to do some, you know, for me at least, high-profile fucking crime that I felt like could very easily end up with me in jail. And I didn't want to do that shit. And he would, you know, be pressuring me to do that shit. And, you know, so we got in a lot of, like, fights and fucking... And this guy is scary when he's angry, alright? Like, he would just be fucking screaming at me and shit. And like, there was a couple of times where, like, you know, the low-key almost became a fight. And, like, you know... He loved to mention the fact that he could just, like, literally fucking stomp my skull into, like, fucking a puddle on the concrete easily. But he didn't want to because he would feel bad because I'm, you know, so much smaller and younger. But, you know, he constantly would, you know, like, kind of... subtly threatened me when I, like, pissed him off by not wanting to commit crimes. So, yeah, if you couldn't tell already, this guy, not a very good guy, right? And it got to a point, right, where I really just didn't want to be there. And, you know, but he was one of the few people at this time who knew that I wasn't even 18 yet. Right? And so he kind of held that over my head. and, you know, was like, if you don't fucking help me, you know, commit these crimes, I'm gonna tell everybody, you know, on the block, you know, that you're underage, and nobody will sell to you or fucking, you know, give you anything ever again. You know, like, he was gonna basically blackball me from the fucking, you know, dope community. And that, you know, that was enough to fucking keep me there, because that was something I couldn't have at that time. I barely knew, you know, the people that I did know that I was getting my shit from at the time, and I couldn't afford to lose that, you know, because then where would I get my drugs? I didn't know what I would do if that happened. I didn't know where else to find dope. And I sure as hell didn't want to quit. So, you know, that was pretty scary for me at the time. But the whole time I was kind of just, like, trying to figure out a way to, like, get away from this dude, basically. And, you know, but he, like, always, like, you know, was, like, you know, fucking, like, right behind me, basically. Like, you know, or, like, you know, watching off in the distance to, like, make sure that I actually went and did what I was supposed to do. And so this dude was, you know, sitting in the car waiting and, like, being lookout, and having me go and fucking, you know, the street by street fucking emptying out people's mailboxes, stealing all their fucking mail, and just throwing it into the car to go through later, to, like, hoping to find, like, credit cards or, like, personal information to use for basically identity fraud. And that's the other thing. Out of all of this shit, this dude, all these crimes this guy had me commit, I really didn't get jack diddly shit out of it. Like, any, you know, like profit or anything that was made off of any of this during this time, I really didn't see any of it. Really, all that I got was, you know, a couple of hits that he, you know, gave me to fucking get me to do it. Because, you know, it would get to a point where I was like, I don't want to keep doing this shit, I just want to get high. Like, fuck this. And so to, like, you know, keep me around and get me to, like, keep committing these crimes, he'd be like, fine, and, you know, fucking let me hit something. And this went on for, like, 2 days, until I was finally just sick of it. And, like, you know, like, I had just, like, disappeared on my cousin, because I was, like, you know, still, like, kind of, like, staying with him at the time, but it was getting to the point where, like, that was, you know, the relationship was getting real strained, because I kept just fucking ghosting on him and disappearing for days at a time to go fucking hang out on the street and do dope. And, like, literally not speaking to him for days at a time, and him having no idea if I was, like, dead or something. And I would just be too anxious to even, like, talk to him, so he'd be, like, spam calling me and shit, and I'd be seeing it, and I'd just fucking turn my phone off. Because I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to just answer and tell him, like, yeah, sorry, I'm not gonna be home for a while, I'm, you know, with the crackheads doing fucking fentanyl. Like, see you soon, dude. I did not want to tell him that. And, you know, it got to a point where, like, I mean, he kind of just knew, like, when I disappeared like that that's what I was doing. And it really became, like, a very common occurrence for me to do that, which is super fucked up. And that was, like, another thing, too, because at this time, right, my cousin didn't know that I relapsed yet, like, really. So he also would, this dude, you know, kind of held that over my head, like, you know, I'll tell your cousin that you're doing dope. And, like, yeah, that was pretty fucked up, too. And so, like, yeah, this kind of, like, situations like that would happen sporadically during this time period, and this dude was just always basically blackmailing me into committing crimes for him. And, yeah, it really sucked, and it was actually one of the main reasons that I ended up leaving Lake City, because I was so sick of this dude. Like, he would disappear, and I wouldn't see him or have to deal with him for months at a time, and I'd finally be like, thank God, like, I'm not gonna have to deal with this fucking guy anymore, and then he'd just show back up, and it would be the same shit, and I couldn't go anywhere without running into this fucking guy. And I just got sick of it, you know? It just got to a point where I was like, it's not really, like, worth it anymore. You know, so it just got to a point where I just was like, fuck it, I gotta get out of here. And, you know, I kind of bounced a couple of bit, like, you know, just got on the fucking train and went to, like, a couple of stops, like where I, you know, was pretty sure people that did drugs were. Like, downtown was one of the first places I went, and I quickly ruled out, like, really staying down there as, like, my main area, because that place fucking sucks. Like, I just did not feel comfortable being there at all. I still don't to this day. I really hate going downtown. It fucking sucks over there. And so I ended up eventually, you know, hanging out in Capitol Hill, which is like Seattle's gay capital, which is a whole nother can of worms. Like, the first couple of months that I was in Capitol Hill, I like got, you know, almost raped by a couple of gay dudes. Like, it was a pretty jarring experience, just like basically being harassed by gay people when I first moved to Capitol Hill. And you know, like, I don't know, I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later on. But yeah, the some of the experiences I had in my first couple of months up here were pretty fucked. And, like, you know, I kind of, like, you know, lived in, like, super survival mode at that time. Like, I literally had to, like, be strategic about where I went to sleep. And I'm normally a pretty heavy sleeper, but I became a really light sleeper at this time, and I developed this, like, reaction, basically, to anybody, like, touching me or, like, you know, like anybody coming near me when I was sleeping, where I would just, like, fucking, like, like, wake up in defense mode, basically. And I wouldn't even remember, like, doing it, at some points. Like, it was pretty fucked up, and it took a long time for me to, like, get out of that, like, you know, habit. I don't think I do that anymore, I think, but, yeah, it was, you know, pretty rough time for me. But yeah, when I moved to Capitol Hill, I mainly, I realized that it's, like, a really good area to panhandle. There's a lot of good places, you know, with a lot of foot traffic, and, you know, despite the issues that I had with the gay community when I first moved to Capitol Hill, for the most part, the gay community are pretty cool people. You know, they're pretty nice. They are, you know, a lot more likely to give you money than, you know, like, you know, people in other places. And they're a little less judgmental. Some of them are, like, even more judgmental than, like, fucking, you know, your middle-class white people. But for the most part, they're pretty cool. You know, they're kind of like the fucking hipster, like, you know, kind of people, so I don't know, they're alright. And I had decent success, just, you know, making money by flying a sign at different spots that I, you know, found throughout my time there, and I still do when I, like, go out there and do it, but, you know, at some point, right, you know, when it gets later at night and all the places started closing, there was a lot of times where, you know, despite the fact that I was successful in making money and getting shit, you know, through that, it would get to that time of day, and a lot of the time I would end up not, you know, out of dope, and, you know, having to wait all the way until fucking business is opened in the morning to even be able to have a chance to make any more money and get anything else. And I got kind of sick of that at some point. And, you know, eventually, I ended up car prowling at night, and I did that almost every night for a long time. And if you guys don't know what car prowling is, basically, it's being a absolute piece of shit and creeping around in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep and whatnot, and going into, like, neighborhoods and shit where people park their cars on the streets and shit, and just going by and pulling on their door handles and seeing if anybody was dumb enough to leave their door unlocked. Or, you know, you look in the window, and if you see something worth stealing, and you have, you know, the right tools or know-how, just break their fucking window and take it. And I didn't break windows much. I tried, you know, to avoid doing that as much as possible. I'm not gonna say I never did it though. I mean, you know what? Actually, I probably should. This is entirely fiction, by the way. Nothing I say here is any admission of guilt, nor should be taken seriously or used as evidence. But anyway, you know, yeah, so that's, you know, kind of something that I started, you know, doing at like nighttime for a while, and I got pretty good at it. I'm not gonna lie. I just kind of have a mindset with these kind of things where I like get in the mindset of trying to optimize it as much as possible. And the main reason that I never, like, you know, got in any trouble or went to jail doing this is because I almost always worked alone. I never did it with other people, really. Like, there was a few times, and I was very selective about the people that I would work with to do these kinds of things, because most, you know, of the junkie, you know, crackhead people, they have no problem committing a crime. The problem is they're not very good at it. They're kind of stupid. You know, and when I did it, I wanted to be low-key, quiet, you know, under the radar, unnoticeable, and, you know, like, if you're with somebody that's fucking gonna be, you know, making a bunch of noise and screaming and doing stupid shit, they're gonna draw attention to you, and you're more likely to have the cops called on you. So I found it was better to just work alone most of the time, because I wouldn't have to say a fucking word. You know, I could be as quiet as possible, and I didn't have to worry about anybody else. And you know, I didn't have to worry about making sure, you know, that someone else got out okay. And, you know, I didn't have to worry about if they didn't get out okay and they did get caught or anything, them snitching on me. So, you know, that's kind of the pros of working alone there. And generally, I just, you know, with like anything like that, I just really don't like working with other people. It doesn't work out for me. I just don't work well in teams for that kind of thing. But, you know, eventually it got to a point where, you know, after doing it like every night, every other night for a long time, I kind of started getting this gut feeling like I need to stop. Like, you know, like, my luck's gonna run out sometime here soon, and I'm gonna go to jail. Like, it's, you know, I can't keep doing this forever. You know, and it was around the time when the police actually started kind of giving a fuck again around here, and I just kind of, you know, noticed, you know, what was going on at the time, where I was, and you know, read the room kind of, and realized that, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to keep doing this. You know, also, the people in the area that I was doing this in, because people were getting their fucking windows broken and their shit stolen and, you know, whatnot so much, a lot of people got sick and fucking tired of it. People were getting pissed. And, like, it got to a point where some people were gonna go full Batman vigilante mode. Like, some people were ready to, like, literally stalk the streets at night looking for criminals to literally beat the fuck out of them. Which I actually did have encounter with, like, a wannabe vigilante at one point, which was kind of funny. This dude was just driving around in his car, and, like, I was walking with a couple of other people. We weren't even doing anything, but we just looked suspicious. You know, we looked like that kind of people because of how we were dressed and whatnot, and he just assumed, right? And so he stops his car in the middle of the fucking street, almost hits one of the people I'm walking with, and then, like, gets out of the car with one of those fucking, like, police batons, and, like, fucking, you know, extends it out, and, like, starts fucking, like, coming at the dude that he almost hit with the car. You know, like, fucking, like, kind of like, you know, trying to get him to, like, fight him. You know, just, like, kind of, like, trying to punk him, basically. And the dude that he almost hit with the car is just like, bro, what the fuck? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, what did I do to you? Like, leave me the fuck alone. And, you know, like, this dude looked fucking crazy. And I mean, I'm guessing that, like, you know, he had just, like, recently gotten robbed or had some bad experience or just, you know, was sick and tired of that whole, like, situation of, you know, the rampant, crime in the area. And, I guess he just got sick of it one day and decided, you know what, I'm just going to find the first person, out at, late at night that looks like they probably commit crimes like that, and I'm just going to beat the fuck out of them with this baton. Like, I guess he just got to that point. And you know what, honestly, understandable. I would be pissed too if, every other fucking day, either, me or someone that I know on my fucking street or, like, general area was having their car windows broken out and having their shit stolen out of their car. That would be pretty frustrating, not gonna lie. And, I believe in karma, so I kind of, also at some point realized that, this is probably pretty bad for my karma. This is a pretty fucked up thing that I'm doing consistently. And, that kind of thing tends to come back on you. Maybe not right away, but it always comes back. Let me tell you, karma always comes back and bites you in the ass eventually. You never get away from it all the way. It's not possible. But anyway, yeah, that's really, like, everything that I can think of right now. Of course, there's a lot of other shit that I did crime-wise during this period of my life for drugs. Like I mentioned in the other videos, like boosting from, stores and stuff like that. But, I don't really have much to say about that. It is what it is. But yeah, so, yeah, that's that, and it's a miracle that I, never got arrested or went to jail, and I value my freedom very much, so, I'm kind of at a point now where I really, would like to avoid, continuing that pattern of behavior and committing, crimes like that for drugs, because I would really like to keep my record clean and not have to go to jail, because jail sucks. But yeah, when I was doing this stuff, the way that I avoided going to jail was just by being smart about it. Just, not involving other people and, like, fucking allowing for the possibility of someone to incriminate me, and just, like, trying to, like, not commit crimes, where there's gonna be witnesses or cameras or, doing shit at night and in dark areas or, like, further out areas from where I, like, hang out at. Don't shit where you eat. It's just kind of common sense stuff that, seems to not really be common sense for some reason for people that do these kinds of things, that ends up getting them caught and arrested a lot of the time. But yeah, that's that. So, without any further ado, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I, appreciate your guys' support. You guys are great. I try to read all the comments and respond to them. So, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'm gonna try and put the links to my, like, Instagram and my Discord in the description. I don't know if YouTube will let me because it's, like, a new account, but if they will, those links will be down there for you. And I posted this on my Instagram earlier, but I really want to fucking be on an episode of the Gobcast. So, you guys, I need you guys to go and just comment on every fucking episode or video that Goblin posts of the Gobcast, just saying that he needs to get me on this podcast. Alright, if we can actually do that, and, like, I actually end up getting onto his podcast, that would be so fucking cool. And you guys would be the best community ever if we manage to do that. So, yeah, let's see if we can pull that off. But yeah, that's about it. So, have a good day, stay zooted, stay lifted. Peace.